welcome back to episode number 6 of Gloves Off Podcast. I'm your host with James McSweeney, Evil-Eddie, and obviously UFC veteran and kickboxing legend Muay Thai. We got James McSweeney back again after a brutal weekend of fights, man. What's going on, James? How you feeling?
Oh, I'm good, thanks, guys. I'm okay. Just it was good weekend of fights for everybody. Sorry for my absence the last few weeks. We had a show out there, but of course I was heavily in camp and traveling a lot, so it was very difficult. So there's different time zones that I was in. I was in Europe a lot for my fight camp. Means that we kept missing each other and going back and forth. So I'm sorry for my absence, but I'm finally back.
We all knew that you had the upcoming fight, but it was kind of short noticed again because we were talking about on the last episode, and this fight against Thiago Silva ended up being pretty short notice. How far out did you know that he was your opponent?
Well, it was kind of strange, really, because it was only like 2.5 weeks, maybe 3 weeks out. I was doing an interview. I was in Holland, and I was doing an interview, and the guy was like, "Oh, James, how's the fight camp going?" And I said, "Oh, I'm very good, thank you, training hard, so forth and so forth." And they said, "Oh, I'm really sorry about your fight." And I was like, "Huh? What do you mean, sorry about my fight?" And they said, "It must be being cancelled. Is there a replacement? Your opponent pulled out." I literally didn't say. I just cut them off. I cut them off. And
you had no idea. You had no idea this was news to you.
This was news to me, yeah.
Wow.
And so I contacted the company and I said, what's going on? "Oh, sorry, we've been busy," and so forth. "Yeah, he's sick." And I was like, "Well, I've been pretty busy too, What's the deal?" I mean, I was actually in France at the time, so I was training with Jerome Labana, and I was in. Are we there?
Yeah, we're here.
So I was in France, and I was training with Jerome Labana, and I was like, "This is crazy." And they said, "Oh, don't worry, we have a replacement for you." I said, "Okay, cool. Who's the replacement?" And they said, "Thiago Silva." So I said, "Okay, well," and I was familiar with Thiago anyway. So I said, "Okay, you got to take the fight?" I said, "Of course I'll take the fight," but it was just a little bit blindsided that I'm preparing for a guy that's 6'7" and 6'8", and then now I'm fighting a guy that's 6 foot. So a different kind of experience, different kind of veteran, different kind of fighting style. But we made the adjustments hopefully in time, and of course we had the fight. I was never going to say no.
Well, the fans were going crazy for this. 2 big UFC veterans going in there. I mean, you looked huge too, James. What did you weigh in at? Like 260 something, right?
No, I was 254.
254. How much do you think you weighed on the day of the fight?
I would have been about 250, probably a little bit less because you don't really eat too much on the day of the fight, and plus nervous energy, you go to the toilet a lot. I was probably about 251, yeah, 252. I didn't cut any weight. Really.
I gotta say this about the card. I mean, I rewatched the fight, and the production that KSW puts on is literally more eye-appealing than even the UFC. Like the lights, just the ambient. It really reminds me of like almost, even at the end when they play the music and stuff like that, it just feels so. There's a good feeling to it. I really like it. It's really
It's an amazing production.
Yeah.
They do a great opening ceremony as well and call all the fighters out, which is great, kind of that thing from Japan. They always do that, which I think is really great. Gives a chance to the fighters to embrace with the fans, or the fans to pick who they want or what fight they're looking forward to the most. And of course, the production's really great. They spend an awful lot of money. They always sell out. I mean, there was probably 18,000, I think, in Wembley, and that was sold out. Every time I fought for them, there's always been a sellout. So, they're doing really well right now.
So let's talk about the fight. You get there. How are you feeling the day after the weigh-ins?
I felt good. I mean, it was funny because I saw Thiago and he was respectful and hellos, how are you, handshakes and stuff like that. But once we had the weigh-in, when we looked at each other, I could tell he had fire in his belly, So, Thiago is a game guy. He's definitely down to fight. So I knew it was going to be a good fight. I knew we were definitely going to stand and trade and go at it. In my mind, we had a good game plan. I felt like it was funny because when I was in the fight, I felt like in the second round that maybe he was getting the better of me or he won that round. And the third round, I wasn't so sure. But after the fight now, I've seen the fight now 4 or 5 times. I watched it. I felt like, to be honest, I won the second round as well, and the third was extremely close. I felt like I won the fight on points, in my opinion, and other people with unbiased opinion towards the fight game have also contacted me saying very similar comments. So, I mean, it's never nice to lose, but if you are going to lose, I mean, going the distance and have an extremely close fight is probably the less of all evils.
So through the fight, you're scoring it round for round. Obviously, the first round clearly went to you. The second round, what was the game plan there? There was an eye poke. Can we talk about the eye poke for a second? Because that was a big changing point.
Well, that's when I look. I thought it was a poke of the fingers, but it actually was a clash of heads. And I think it was accidental, the first one. In my opinion, unless he's extremely, extremely talented at his dirtiness. The first one, I think, was a head, we clashed heads, and it got me straight in the eyeball, and I was like, oh, damn. And the referee come over and stopped, and he's like, you okay? I said, yeah, I'm okay. I said, I think it was his finger went in my eye. I said, something went in my eye. And I wasn't too sure what it was, because it wasn't like it was like an impact. It was just pretty much in my eye, so I thought it was a finger. And when I watched the video, it wasn't. It was actually a clash of heads. So I got my eye back, and okay, it was a little bit blurry, but I was like, okay. And then he started to use his head, and then I felt he headbutted me. There was one time in the second round, I attacked him across the cage. I hit him with another head kick. He kind of buckled in half. I went to kick him again. Now, as he come up, he turned into me and bam, and he headbutted me, and that's where I got this cut top and bottom. And I instantly reacted, and I looked at the referee and said, shit, like, fuck.
Yeah.
And the referee did nothing. And then he punched me, and then he kept attacking me, and I was still gesturing to the ref that, you know, I couldn't see, and that I was being, you know, this was a legal shot, and the referee did nothing. So then I had to fight, make space, and fight my way back. But for that split, 5 or 6 seconds, I really couldn't see nothing. I was really double visioned. It caught me right on the... See, the thing is, with a punch, with a punch, it's a point of knuckle impact and rotation is what cause cuts. There's no way in a million years that one punch can cause a top and bottom cut at the same time. So I knew when my face was cut that way, it was the head. And when I watched the video, I knew it was a headbutt for sure. I saw his head come back and go straight into me, and bam. And then I knew then after that, every time we got anywhere near each other, he was rubbing his hair into my face, into my eyes, into my cuts. He kept putting his fingers into my cuts. He would turn his head from one side to the other and headbutt me to the side. And it was just getting like, you know, come on now, this is getting too much. Like, one clash of heads is accidental, but yeah, not 3, 4. I've had many fights over the years, and I've never had this many scars and cuts in a fight, including Muay Thai. I've never had any, you know, elbows and stuff like that, cuts here and there, but he headbutted me I counted at least 4 headbutts during that fight.
And you guys can actually go back on the Instagram. For everybody that's tuning into the video cast right now, we're actually scrolling through your Instagram and looking at some of the highlights and stuff like that. So as you're telling the story, we're going back and forth between, you know, you show where the cuts are and everything. You're really doing a great job of explaining it, but I think it would be even better if people went to check out your Instagram page to go back and look at some of these fights. I mean, James, some of those head kicks that you landed would have taken anybody out, man. Thiago Silva is such a warrior for standing there and eating those the way he did.
Yeah, I mean, he's tough as nails, and I knew that about him as well. I mean, I thought he was weak on the body, so we were doing a lot of body shots and knees, and then coming up to the head, getting the hands to come down and come to the head, go into the head and come into the body. And I've got to give credit where it's due. You know, Thiago is a super tough guy, mentally tough. He doesn't want to take a backward step unless he have to. He's a very strong, mentally strong guy.
There was a point in the fight where I think it was in the first round where he threw a head kick and it literally goes over his head. That's like 6 feet in the air that you're able to stretch. It's just like, oh, is that really like a 260-pound guy in there? Like, the way that you move is like, it's absolutely remarkable, James.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, we knew for the fight that we were going to use a lot of footwork because I saw him fight in ACB, and there was a guy he fought against that had outscored him on points, and he used a lot of side lateral movement, and Thiago was getting extremely frustrated, like he was in my fight, like just disengaging from the fight, walking to the middle, putting his hands up, like, okay, you're trying to say that, come on, just stand and fight me, which is kind of like, and the crowd kind of enjoy it. But it's not smart because if I know that's what you want from me, you want me to plant myself in the ground and not move just so we can go punch
Yeah.
for punch, then that's not the game of the fight, you know. He was doing a lot of hard. That's where I was causing frustration for him because I was changing my footwork, I was changing my angles, I was kicking him, hitting him, and moving, cutting to the side, circling off, dictating where he took the fight. And I feel, I don't know how the judges were scoring, but I feel that I was dictating where the fight would take place. I was dictating the footwork, the drills, the movement, whether I was in the middle or on the outside. It was my footwork that was dictating the fight. And then, of course, I countered pretty much everything he did. So I'm very confused on how they scored the fight.
So, did you guys catch up after the fight? I mean, did you guys show good sportsmanship backstage? Or what was he like in person after the fight?
Yeah, there was no real good sportsmanship on his part, but after the fight, we were both in the. I had to go straight into the hospital room, the medic room. So did he. He was getting his legs iced, and I was getting stitched up. He didn't engage into any conversation with me whatsoever. He just come over and said good fight at the end, and I said yeah, good fight, and then he walked off. So there was no conversation, nothing. I wasn't expecting too much, and yeah, there was nothing. Like I said, we're not friends, just because we fight
Yeah.
doesn't make us enemies. But we're not friends by no means. I don't know him, and I only know what I know online, so I have no means to be friends. I respect the guy and his attributes in the cage, but that's about as far as I go with him.
So, you rewatched the fight, you said. You scored the first round for you, and then where'd you score the second and third?
I felt the second was for me too, and I feel that with the blatant headbutts that have taken place, he should have lost the point. I feel he should have got a warning. He should have lost a point. I feel the third was close, in my opinion. It was just purely an opinion. I would say it was almost a draw the third round. If you count exactly the kind of engagements we both had, it was completely even. If you want to score how we placed, I feel that I took him down in the first round. I was kicking, I threw knees, I threw elbows, I punched. I used a whole array of MMA. I forced the clinch. In the second round, I went for the takedown yet again. I was fighting MMA. I feel like he pretty much just boxed and tried to kick. And that doesn't really score in the MMA world. So I felt, I dictated the pace. I landed more significant strikes. I used a more round array of strikes. I felt that I won that fight. But and it's funny because I've never actually said that after a loss. I've pretty much always kept it to myself. In myself, like, oh, that was close, People say, oh no, I think you should have won that. And I said, oh, I'm not too sure. The judges are the judges, and never leave it to them. And they're right. Don't leave it to the judges. But I feel at this level, there shouldn't be those kind of mistakes. And at this level, when there's a referee in there, and a fighter's getting attacked in a way where he's saying he can't see and he's visualizing to the referee that he's holding his face or he can't see after something, whether he believes there was a legal strike or not, he should have still stopped that fight because he needs to always protect the fighter.
And you did a good job making sure like there was a null in action as well to get that space when that happened.
Yeah, I had to move and I had to gesture to the ref, and I'm kind of doing two persons job in there. I had to keep myself safe and also say, hey, how the fuck did you not see that? But he could see closely that instantly I was bleeding. I had white shorts on. They were redder than Thiago's by the end of the fight. There was a lot of blood, and he just did nothing. The referee. I'm so confused. And this is the problem with MMA right now is that, and if you're fighting in Las Vegas for the UFC or a show, it's okay because you can go to the Nevada Athletic State Commission. You can voice a complaint. You can have it viewed again and see if you have a case. But when you fight in Europe, there is no such thing. So everyone says, "Oh, you should appeal it. You should appeal it." And you mean, appeal it to who? Who do you appeal it to? I don't know. Because Who do you go to and say, I feel that this is unjust. Can you look at it for me and see if I have a case? There is no sanctioning bodies.
All in all, honestly, I think this was an amazing fight, exciting, exactly what I wanted. Obviously, I wanted you to win, but man,
Yeah.
you both went out there and put on an amazing show. And I know it must have been frustrating for you when he was trying to say, come to the center and let's bang, because the big part of the style that you're training for is, staying active, the footwork, like you were saying. But all in all, man, I think that was an amazing fight. You guys should both be proud of yourselves. How are you feeling now, though, a day after the fight? How do fighters usually feel after, you go through all that adrenaline and all that? How are you feeling now?
Yeah, I mean, I felt after the fight, same what you just said. It's great because I felt like I had a good fight. You know what I mean? And I feel like it was a good test, and that's what I was after. And I think he could say the same. We have a mutual respect for each other. We tested each other's limits. We pushed our boundaries. We put on a great show for the crowd, the fans, which is really what it's all about. And for me, I got a chance to show some skills that I've been working on. I felt like it was an all-round good performance from myself. I felt satisfied with 85% of my performance. Right now, being a bit banged up, I've got, I think it was 45 stitches in my face.
Wow.
I got 5 inside my right ear. I don't know if you can see there, guys. I'll put it into my ear.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my ear pretty much cauliflowered up because he had hit me on the ear, and it burst and split inside my ear down to my eardrum. So I had to have stitches completely all the way inside my ear towards my eardrum. They put 5 stitches in there. What else? I have a fractured thumb. My right thumb is fractured. I broke 5 minor bones and calcium bones and cartilage in my left foot. So that's like twice the size. And I've got a torn groin. So apart from that, I'm okay.
So obviously, we're getting towards the end of the year. Do you see yourself fighting again before 2019, or what's the game plan now? Is it too soon to even ask?
No. I'm fighting December 1st in Frankfurt in the K1 in Germany.
Do you know who your opponent's against yet, or no?
Yeah, they gave me the guy's name, but unfortunately I've forgotten it. He used to fight. He actually fights for Glory, so he's a good kickboxer. So I'd have to go into my phone and get his name out. But it was organised about a month ago. So yeah, I'll be healed up by then, hopefully, and I start when I'm actually in America right now, just enjoying some family time.
I was just about to say.
Yeah, and then I go home next week and back to Thailand, and we start again.
That's got to be brutal. You're just out there, and then you fly to America. Why are you in America? You're in where? Pennsylvania, right?
Yes, I'm in Pennsylvania right now, in Delaware. And my wife has some friends here. We're over here. They're staying with them. Then we go to Florida to go to Disney World for a couple of days with my daughter. She's never been.
Wow.
And then I'm going to be in New York for 3 days. So and then after New York, I fly straight back to London.
What are you going to New York for?
Just because just gonna hang out there. Hopefully, I'm gonna bump into some old friends of mine there. I'm gonna try to hit up Henzo Gracie and pop into his gym and say hi. I haven't seen him for many years, and just have a bit of sightseeing and see New York. I've never been to New York with my wife before, so we're just gonna have a look around to be a couple of tourists. She's been there a few times, and so have I separately. So just have just enjoy some good food and rest before I go home.
Oh man, you guys are gonna have a blast together. There's a lot of cool stuff for couples to do. There's like my dad went to ask my stepmother for her hand in marriage out there. They went on like a horse and buggy ride through Times Square and stuff like that. It's just
yeah, that's really cool.
If you guys have never been to New York, it's definitely on the bucket list. And how exciting to go to Disney World as a little girl. There's so much going on there. Have you ever been to Disney? Because that place is
No,
really?
I've never been. I went to Universal about 8 years ago. I used to be managed by MC Hammer, was my manager.
What?
And we met him in Universal, and we went around Universal there, and they pretty much gave us they almost closed down. It wasn't closing the park, but we had a good VIP guide to take us behind the scenes and go all the way through VIP together with MC Hammer and his family, and my wife and we joined them. And it was an amazing experience. So I'm going to go to Disney World this time. I've got some pass jumpers and some VIP treatment to show us around as well. So it should be a really enjoyable couple of days.
Wait, hold on. I got to unpack that. How did MC Hammer and the Hammer get together? How did that happen?
Well, I was managed by another company back then, and MZ Hammer was a partner of the company,
Wow.
and yeah, and then he was my manager. So he's he was an amazing guy. He'd just come back off tour at the time, so he was recovering. Him and his family are a beautiful family. There was many. I think it was like 20 of us in total. It was like cousins and kids and aunties and uncles all together, and then me and my wife. So it was pretty cool. And we spent a few days with MC Hammer there and at Universal, and they obviously knew that he was coming, so they gave him the VIP treatment. They closed down certain parts of the park where they knew we wanted to be, showed us round, took us behind the scenes. It was an amazing experience. So they won't do that for me, but they did it for him.
So listen, cool. James, let's jump into what everybody wants to know about. Well, even before that, you know what? Fuck it. Let's just jump right into it. Did you get the McGregor versus Khabib fight, or were you at least able to watch some of the highlights or anything?
Yeah, well, I didn't see it live because obviously I was fighting the same day, and in England we were hedged. So we fought, and then I was back at the hotel, and then it was on at 5 o'clock in the morning. There was no way I was going to stop till that time. But the next day, I watched the whole event. Yes, I got to see it all. So, where do we start? I mean, I think Khabib fought a very smart. Let's start with the actual fight first. Let's give the fight the respect it deserves. I felt Khabib fought a good fight. I wasn't overly. I think there was definitely some distance issues with Conor's game, which has never been there before. I was very surprised. Maybe that's just to do with boxing that he's been doing so much and they fight so much closer. But he seemed to have a distance with his range, which he's never done before. He's almost like a tactician in his distance, and he seemed to be struggling with that. And Khabib was closing the space and landing strikes that I feel that he would never have landed if it was 2 or 3 years ago. But Khabib did a good job, wrestled him, took him down, and he got the submission.
Were you especially surprised when Khabib was able to drop him? Like, I don't think anybody saw that coming.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you watch where he dropped him, it was like there was no reaction on Conor's part. And that's almost been unheard of in his previous fight. So when he dropped Jose Aldo, his distance was so fast on his feet. He was almost like the Mayweather of MMA. He was so smart with his distance. He would make you just miss him, and then he would counter. And it just seemed like that wasn't the case with Khabib. I don't think Khabib's striking or his distance was phenomenal. I just think Conor was not in the right space.
And a lot of discussions have been had about this, and I kind of noticed, like, before the event, I know he was trying to promote his whiskey, Proper 12, but he showed up to the press conference drunk, like, a week out from the fights. Is that normal for fighters to do? Wouldn't you want to stay away from any alcohol?
Yes, for sure. I mean, I don't know if he was actually. That's the thing about Conor is that, excuse me, is that he you never know what's real and what's not real with him.
That's true.
Is he drunk or is he putting on a show? Is he making out that he's drunk to sell his whiskey, or was he really drunk? I mean, I would be very surprised that he would have been drunk. That his team of a professional level would allow that.
So obviously, this is one of the biggest fights in a long time. Dana White's saying it's definitely breaking 2 million. We're on its way to 3 million, but that's not even the biggest talk. Like, the fight was really good. I enjoyed the fight. Probably not my favorite McGregor fight, but what unraveled afterwards, what do you have to say about that? What happened as soon as the fight broke?
I mean, I'm reading all these people say, Khabib took months and months of abuse, and when you bring up a person's this, you bring up a person's that, you deserve to get what you get. In my opinion, I think that's rubbish. I think what he did and what his team did is disgusting, not just for himself, but also for the sport. I think what Conor did on the bus was disgusting, not for just himself, but for the sport. These two wrongs don't make a right. At the end of the day, you're a professional athlete who's getting paid an immense amount of money. You have a job to withstand, and you have rights to do. And at the end of the day, what you did was completely wrong and unjust. I feel that if someone has been building a fight of hype up or whatever they've been doing, is saying this about you and saying that about you, either deal with it there and then or don't deal with it whatsoever. And the fact is, he already made him pay in the ring. He beat the guy in the cage, which is what he said he was going to do, right? Yep. He said, everything you say to me, I'm going to make you pay in the cage. Fantastic. You've got the platform. You're not going to get arrested, and no one's going to look down for you for kicking the guy's ass inside the cage. And you did that. What you did after, in my opinion, is disgusting.
Here's my opinion. Before I even give my opinion about that, I just think that Khabib was so on point getting ready for this fight, so mentally prepared. I mean, the big talk was like, oh, is he going to make weight? He shows up weigh-in day, the first fighter to the scale. The press conference, Conor shows up late. He was like, I'm not letting that get into my head. I'm out of here. Like, I'm the champion. I just grew a lot of respect for Khabib up until he jumped out of the cage like that. And a lot of people out there are saying it set the sport back 20 years. But then you look at like what Conor did with the bus and getting arrested and this and that, what he did at Bellator. I don't think any of it's right. But how do you punish these two fighters? If you were Dana White, how would you handle this, James?
I mean, to be honest, the things what Dana's been stuck with prior to this is, I mean, sorry, my camera just turned around. I don't know why she's doing that on its own. That's crazy. I mean, to punish them, I think it's not even in Dana's hands. I think it's going to be in the Nevada Athletic State Commission's hands. Yeah. And I think inside the business of Dana himself, of the UFC, I mean, if it was any other fight, I think they would strip him of the title. I think they'd both be suspended. I mean, what Conor did on the bus, that went straight to court, and the court dealt with it. And they the UFC did nothing on their side to make him pay for these actions, which I think that there should have been something on his side to make pay for his actions. But we all know when you've got high level fighters out there like John Jones, Conor McGregor, and stuff like this, they're almost making so much money for the company that they've almost got a little bit of a leeway to do what they want, right? Because if other people did what Conor McGregor did at weigh-ins or press conferences, it wouldn't be fired on the spot. Yeah, they'd be fired. They'd be highly fired. I mean, I remember back in the day, there was one of the guys from the Ultimate Fighter House that got his contract, and he kicked out the window of the limousine.
Oh yeah, Jesse.
Jesse, that's it, Jesse. Yeah, he got fired and was never allowed back into the UFC until many, 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 many years. He had to, for that. And then you got someone like Conor who threw a dolly through a window of a bus and almost hit females, and jump in this and jump in that, and all these things with drinking and all this stuff. And I mean, it's just because, okay, yes, he makes the company a lot of money, but I mean, is it all just about money, or is it about the pride of the company? And what's happening is that it's being shown right now. If you make the company that much money, you can pretty much do what you want. So what Khabib did, I don't know what punishment that's going to face, any punishment at all.
So we actually had a fan question about this for the show, James. A fan wanted to know, they say, how do these suspensions work? Because allegedly they're saying, oh, these guys are going to be suspended for 10 days. Like, what does that even mean, suspended for 10 days? Like, how does that work?
I mean, I don't...
That doesn't make any sense, right?
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever, because it's not like, okay, they're suspended for 10 fights. I mean, then 10 days is nothing. It's because we're self-contracted. We're some contract fighters, so we don't really actually work for you. So I just fought on Saturday. It's now Wednesday. That's 4 days. So I mean, another 6 days. My suspension over. I mean, how does that work? That's just ludicrous.
But you can't use your Twitter for 10 days. Yeah.
No one's going back to work 10 days after a fight anyway. Yeah. So it doesn't even make sense. It shouldn't even be put out there. But that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's not just that, but it's just the mindset. I think it's silly for Khabib because he beat the champion. He beat the guy that he was up against. He silenced the critics. He beat the guy. And then he goes and does that. And then you don't even get the belt put around your waist. You've got a bad taste in your mouth. Now, the president of the company's got a personal dislike to you. Fans, are voicing their opinions. You upset a lot of people. He could have just took the higher road, beat the guy in the fight like he did, been the true professional, had the belt wrapped around his waist, and bang. I mean, look what happened. Do you remember Paul Daly?
Yeah, of course.
When he punched Koscheck after the bell.
After the bell, yeah.
Fired from the UFC, right? Never allowed back.
Jason High The names go on. Names go
And
on.
that's what I'm saying. So what happens when Khabib does this? Nothing.
You know what I got to say here.
He actually got to meet Mike Tyson the day after the fight with Dana. So it's really strange. Really strange.
There's one photo that was taken, and obviously Khabib the Eagle, the way he jumped out of the cage, it was like he was clawing at Dylan Dennis with his feet. It was just like such a good shot. I'm not saying I'm for what happened or anything, but that was pretty not iconic, but pretty infamous photo, I guess, as time goes on.
For media, that's an amazing opportunity for that kind of thing to happen. They gave them amazing, but as an athlete, I just think it's just a shame because, I mean, he's lived and waited for that moment his whole life to get that belt. He's trained it very hard. He's suffered. He's put himself and his family through hell and back to, get that belt or that opportunity. And then you go out there and tarnish it by doing something like that. Because now more people are talking about what happened after the fight than people are talking about during the fight itself.
100%.
And that's what you're going to get remembered as. And that's going to be he's talking about, I'm doing this for my legacy and stuff like this before the fight. That's your legacy, mate. That's what you're known as now.
So honestly, I don't think this sets Conor back that much with this loss because anytime Conor fights, people are gonna show up and order the pay-per-views. He's even tied right now with Floyd Mayweather with his last 9 performances, I believe, and it's something like this. His last 9 performances, he has headlined a pay-per-view that has done over 1 million pay-per-view buys, which is very impressive.
But look at that. He's already in tie with Floyd Mayweather, who's been in the boxing game for over 20 years. Conor McGregor's been in the game for what, 4?
Yeah, since 2015, 14.
That's what I'm saying.
13,
yeah, okay,
13.
so 3 years. So 5 years. But at the highest level, like 4 years, making his name. So he's already on par with one of the biggest names in the combat sports history who's been on the game for over 20 years. So, no, I don't think it does damage his reputation. Of course, a loss is never good, but Conor lost against Diaz and came back and rectified it. I think this is what's going to happen now. I think they're going to bring him back. I think they're going to make this fight happen again.
Really? Why do you say that?
Why wouldn't I think they will, because why wouldn't they? Because look how much, if that fight happens again, it just smashed the box office already for 3 million views or whatever. After what Khabib did, how many people are going to watch it now?
It's definitely promoted it even more. Honestly, there's so many options out there right now. Khabib is saying it's going to take like $10 million or something like that to get the rematch. And they made some good money. I mean, here, Conor made $3 million there, and not counting pay-per-view money. Khabib made $2 million. But here's what I think, James. I wouldn't be surprised if Conor, if he doesn't fight, Anderson Silva or GSP or whatever his plan is, or do the rematch with Khabib, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes over to boxing to fight Paulie Malignaggi, because he's coming off a $100 million payday, and now he's making a couple million. What would you do in this position if you're Conor?
I think, of course, but for him, it's not about the money anymore as well. He's already got enough money, and he never have too much, that's for sure. But I don't think the UFC is just going to let him keep jumping back and forth to boxing, because yet again, that's not allowed in the UFC contracts.
We've seen that with...
That exception's been made, right? So even Anderson wanted to do it years ago with Roy Jones Jr. There's been many people that have wanted to go and do boxing fights and wasn't allowed to. So I don't think that's going to be allowed to keep jumping back and forth. And honestly, I don't think it's actually going to do Conor's fighting style and MMA influence that great, because we already saw less of a performance now than what we see before. So I think it actually damaged him a little bit more than, and I know the transition between kickboxing and MMA is a very big one. It's very hard. People don't understand. And it was funny because I saw John Kavanagh do an interview and say, Conor's his hands now are so much better because we concentrated on boxing for so long. And I thought, actually, you're wrong, John. John Kavanagh is a very intelligent coach, but he has never fought stand-up striking and MMA himself. And unless you've gone along that bridge and you know that bridge, it's a very hard one to cross. And there's a lot of people out there. If you look at a lot of people that have ever done it, more have failed than succeeded. And it's funny enough, most of the people that have succeeded in going from high-level striking to MMA have pretty much come from Holland, and most of them come from my gym in Holland. Alistair Overeem.
I was going to say, yep.
Lucian Carbin, Valentine Overeem, Gilbert Ivell, myself, Tyrone Spong did it. There's a ton of, and they all come from our gym in Holland.
Jermaine Durandamy as well.
Yeah, now Gokhan Saki's doing it, but he's coming from Mike's gym, and he's having a hard time. You don't see the same level of striking from Gokhan in MMA that you saw from in kickboxing, because the distance is different. The level changes are different. Some things that work in the kickboxing world don't work in the MMA world. Some things that work in the MMA world don't work in the kickboxing world. And it's very hard to keep jumping back and forth and making that transition. But there are some people out there talented enough and have a different aspect of the sport to be able to do it. Now, I'm not saying Conor wasn't talented enough, but I'm saying he hasn't had long enough adjustments from boxing to MMA to get back in. He pretty much just jumped back in the deep end and put himself back at the highest level fight against one of the best guys in the world, or if not, actually is right now the best guy in the world. So the transition wasn't complete for him yet. All the sparring he did may be great, but it's not the same. And that's when I thought, when I saw John Kavanagh do the interview, I thought, you know what? We're not going to see the same boxing from Conor, and I don't think we'll see a better boxing from Conor, because just because you concentrate on your boxing for X amount of months to do a boxing fight, the rest of your MMA game had to stop. You weren't still wrestling. You weren't still throwing kicks and knees and elbows and all those things. You had to completely transition. So, yes, maybe your hands got better on paper, but when you had to go back to the drawing board and put the blueprint back together to do MMA, it all suffered, because 6 other attributes of your style was less. 1 went up, 6 went down. So on a whole picture, you're still 5 down. And that's what I think we saw with Conor's fight.
Wow, you really painted a perfect picture there with that one. That's an Instagram clip right there.
Well, that's because I've been on that road, and I've had my, if you look at my fights and you look at my record, it's a very up and down record. I've fought some of the best guys in the world, and to be honest, I should have maybe took easier fights, and I should have allowed myself to grow in the sport. But easier fights wasn't being offered to me because of my striking background and my kickboxing background, and so many fights that I'd had. So I was getting chucked straight in the deep end. But for myself, I'm not looking back at saying about me, but I just know there was fights I had where I excelled, and I thought, oh, okay, that worked. And then there was fights I went out there and I used the same game plan against a different style MMA fighter, and it didn't work. Like when I fought Roy Nelson compared to when I fought Matt Mitrione. 2 complete different fighters, but I went out there with the same game plan, and it didn't work for me. So I had to learn along the way. I had to win some fights. I lost some fights. I had to rebuild. Okay, that doesn't work. Now I've got to do this. Oh, that's working. Great. Now this didn't work. Now do that. And I had to go back and forth over many years. And I believe now, like, it took a good 5 or 6 solid years to transition from high-level striking the K1 to MMA. And now I've got the experience where I can jump back and forth. Conor's a lot younger than myself. He's had a lot of high-level fights. He's a veteran. But I know jumping out of MMA into the boxing world, he had to submerge himself in boxing. And I know for a fact the rest of his game has suffered. He already wasn't a complete mixed martial artist, and the fact that he's not a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's not an A-level wrestler. He's a great striker. He's a great tactician of distance. But in boxing, he had to work on his distance being closer. He had to fight in the pocket. Boxers fight in a telephone box. MMA fighters fight with a meter distance between us because of shots and takedowns and kicks. You know, it's a much difference in your level changes. And I think that's why he struggled with the distance against Khabib.
I'm sold on this now. You know, I was against it up until this point. I think that's a great move. I think he makes some great points that he needed a little bit of adjustments because he's bouncing back and forth. What do you guys think about this? Let us know at Gloves Off Pod on Twitter, or at McSweeney MMA on Instagram, or you can get to me at Pure Evil MMA _. James, how does this fight go down? If they do this rematch again, last note on this, how does this fight go down?
Well, there'll be a ton of security. That's first.
Yeah.
Right? There's going to be security everywhere. They should be limited to how many people they can have in their team at the press conferences, at the fights. It should all be limitations. I mean, if it goes down again, I mean, you'll see. In my personal opinion, I think you're going to see Conor brush himself down, rebuild himself, focus on his full MMA game. I think you're going to see him come back and fight again for the belt. That's what I hope to see as a fan. Um, I hope he doesn't just run off like boxing, like the Ronda Rousey. She lost and just run away from the sport and didn't want to face her demons, and now submerged in fake wrestling. I think that was a shame. She didn't grow from that. She just enhanced the darkness in her mind.
100%.
You know what I mean? And she's hiding in a fake, entertainment sport, making great money. Great, you're making millions of dollars, but it's not about money, right? It's about yourself. One day that's going to come back and haunt her.
Yeah, of
When
course.
she's too old to come back in the game, and she can't actually get back in the game because she's past that situation. This is going to haunt her for the rest of her life because she's an Olympian. I don't want to see that happen to Conor. I hope he does what he did against Diaz.
Yeah.
He's brushed himself off. He makes the transitions and goes back to the drawing board, submerges himself in the sport, and he comes back and he gets the opportunity to fight again. I don't want to see him run off and fight. I don't care about Conor boxing. Do you know what I mean? Because as an MMA fan, I want to see the guy fight MMA.
Yes.
I'm only watching him box for pure like clownery.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
Like going to the circus. It's okay. We're going to see some freaks do something different.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. I want to see because to be honest, Joe Magliana, I'm not a fan of him as a boxer anyway. I think he's not a good boxer. He's not up there with the greats. He's not up there with the high-level guys. And he was just he's exactly what he was brought in for. He's a good sparring partner. That's what he was brought in for. He ain't going to stand there and fight Mayweather or any of the high-level guys, Pacquiao. He'd get murdered. So to him and Conor to fight is like, it's just a joke. You know what I mean? Conor's an elite-level athlete, one of the highest grossing earners in the sport. I think he's very talented. I'd love to see him go back and brush himself off, learn some more about the sport, learn from the loss that he had, come back and get a chance to rectify it. Whether he wins or he loses is not the point, but every fighter needs to come back and face a loss.
I almost feel like Conor lost touch a little bit here with, I feel like the UFC, there's such an expectation there, right? Like, look at Ronda Rousey, for instance. Every time she fought, people were expecting her to, keep that same bully attitude, whether they liked it or not. And also finish fights in, 13 seconds, or at least in the first round. The expectation was so high. With Conor, what do we know? Every time they announce a fight, we're going to see some amazing press conferences. We're going to see their shit talking. We're going to see, all the things that we love about Conor McGregor. Do you think the UFC is putting too much pressure on the big stars to, sell the product instead of focusing on the fights?
Well, the fact of the matter is, we've got to get something straight here. The UFC are about making money, right? They don't care whether the press conferences or the demanding schedule affects the fighters' training. They don't care about that because at the end of the day, they want to sell a fight. It's all about pay-per-view. It's all about making money. That's when it has to come down to the fighters and the fighters' team, management, and coaches and everyone else to put a stop to that and say, "Hey, enough's enough. You've done enough of this and done enough of that." Conor's built a rod for his own back. He sells a fight the way he sells it. And what we loved about Conor the most is that he would sell a fight and then back it up.
Every time, make the predictions. Well, Mystic Mac.
Exactly what you do, right? Exactly, right? And that's what we loved. But on this thing, it didn't happen. And of course, he's human. I think on the next fight, they're still going to pressure him to do what he's going to do. But to be honest, I would love to see the silly, proper 12 whiskey drop. I'd love to see all that stuff go out the window. Don't bring alcohol to a press conference. 10 drinking it. Don't be turning up drunk. Let's be sportsmen here. Let's be. This is what people are paying to see. You talk about mixed martial arts and martial artists. Drinking and martial arts don't go together. Respect, it's about honor, it's about a way of life. What example is that setting for future fighters or people? Respect the sport, give the respect it deserves. Go out there and be a clean-cut athlete. I wish Conor comes out as he used to do. I don't mind the trash
I think it's amusing. I think it builds a fight. I think it's fun. I have a personal distaste for the alcohol side of what's being done.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh, did we lose him? James, are you with us? James, can you hear me? James.
Oh, sorry, mate. I lost you there. Are you there?
Yeah, we call all of that. We call everything that you said, though. It just cut off like right at the end.
Oh, yeah, that was really strange. I was just saying, I don't mind all the press conferences. We love that about Conor, that he would sell the fight. It would always be fun and he would promote it. But to be honest, going out there and trash talking and bringing whiskey to the venue, and I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that at all. I think it's not good for the sport. It's not good for the youngsters of today. It's not a good attribute that we're selling. And I think that it has no place in the professional level of sports. And I don't want to see that. I think going out there and toasting and drinking with Dana White, press conferences shouldn't be allowed. Dana shouldn't be encouraging it or even playing along with it. You're a paid athlete a week before the show and you turn up drunk or pretending to be drunk or whatever you're doing. Hey, let's get things back in perspective. Let's get things where they should be. I'm hoping this happens after this fight. So if it does happen again, I hope it goes back to the old ways.
So let us know what you guys think down below here in the comments. James, before we end today's podcast, I was dying to ask you this. All week, since it happened, we saw Rampage Jackson versus Vanderlei Silva back at it again. If there's one thing that we learned from that fight, it's that maybe Tito versus Chuck won't be that bad. But what was your thoughts on it? Was it at least better than you thought it would be? Because it was for me.
Yeah, I mean, I always knew it was going to be a game fight because Wanderlei Wanderlei's been a fighter since the day he's been born. I mean, the guy started off in bare knuckle fighting and headbutts. He was doing Vale Tudo back in the day in Brazil. Wanderlei will fight anyone, anywhere, on any given stages. Rampage is the same. He's a great fighter. He's been around for a hell of a long time. I mean, I don't think the extra weight on Rampage is doing him any justice. I mean, he's over 250 pounds. He looks a little bit slow. I preferred him when he was light heavyweight, and I preferred seeing Wanderlei when he was a little bit smaller too. But it was amusing for the fans, right? It was an amusing fight. They went out there. They went tough for cuff. They showed a lot of history. They showed a lot of heart and passion. Of course, Rampage picked up the victory and dropped him. I think it's enough's enough of those kind of fights. I've seen enough. I don't need to see no more.
Last but not least, just my schedule this week. Thursday, I will be at Bellator backstage doing interviews with Roy Nelson, Matt Mitrione, Ryan Bader. James, I have to ask you about this. How do you see Bader versus your friend Matt Mitrione, our friend Matt Mitrione, going?
I think it depends which Ryan Bader shows up. If the Ryan Bader that showed up against King Mo, I think that
13-second knockout, right? Was that the?
Yeah. I think he has a problem. I think, but we know Ryan Bader's had a problem about which Bader shows up. The Bader we've been seeing of late is very hungry. He's dying to fight. He's doing a great job. I'm not too sure. I mean, his wrestling is superb. He's got great wrestling. That's what he needs to use against Matt Mitrione. He needs to close the space. Don't give Matt any distance. Matt's a long, rangy fighter. He has a long jab. Southpaw, very unorthodox style. He's got heavy hands and fast hands for a big guy. His takedown defense is getting a little bit better. And he's on a hype train. He's on a hype train since the Fedor fight. So he's got a lot of, he's got a lot of people backing him now. So we'll see. But I think on paper, it should be Ryan Bader should be able to take this away. But I also said I thought Fedor would beat him too. So it's going to be, you're going to have to watch it. We're going to have to watch, right?
Oh, man. I mean, we even got Chael Sonnen versus Fedor next. Like, all these fights, I mean, I can't wait to see what happens on Ravels. My quick pick, guys, just so you know, I am going to be going with Matt Mitrione to win this fight. So me and James have a little bet going on here, I guess, and we'll find out on the next episode of Gloves Off, which will be coming in the next couple of weeks. So, James, before we sign off, anything else that you want to get on the table? What's your schedule look like for the rest of the week?
No, I'm just going to spend some family time, catch up with my family. I've been traveling a lot pre to my fight. I was in Holland, I was in France, I was all over the place prior to my fight, so I didn't get a chance to spend much quality time with my family. So I'm going to enjoy family time this week, and then obviously heading into Disney World, then into New York, then back into London, from London back into Thailand, and start again. So for me, I'm just I've got it easy right now for the next week or so. So I'm just enjoying my time. But good to be back. Great to talk about. I'm looking forward to what's coming up, and stay tuned, guys.
So guys, down below we have the link. We just launched the merch this morning. The link's going to be down below here in the description. It will really help me and James out to, make the podcast better, just help out with, little things here and there. We lowered the prices on all the tees. It's very affordable. You guys can even get stickers for just $4 if you want to represent Gloves Off. Me and James are going to be splitting it right down the middle. So it's going for a good cause, and you get to represent one of your favorite podcasts and go out there and be part of the street team. I really appreciate everyone that's been tuning in lately. We've been smashing it on iTunes, Podbean, absolutely killing it. So I can't wait to it unravels by the time episode 20 comes around and where we're at then. So we're not even at episode 10 yet, James, and we got a pretty good bandwagon here with a lot of great supporters, and I want to thank every single one of them out there. So last but not least, guys, subscribe on Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, Stitcher, and right down below here on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. I'm Evil Eddie from Pure Evil MMA. White Knuckles to the M. That's James McSweeney. We're out, guys.
Thank you, guys. Ooh, stay care.
All right, James. Have a